So the one and only scripture text for today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verses 22 through 24. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and then on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "God forbid it, Lord. This must never happen to you." But Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Or if you were here last week, a better translation would be, "Get behind me, Ha-Satan," the opponent. "You are a hindrance to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." And then Jesus told his disciples, "If any wish to come after me, let them deny their small selves and take up their cross and follow me." Well, I have to give Tom Ludwig and the choir either the blame or the credit for the focus of today's message. I wasn't sure exactly what direction I was going to go this week, but when I was putting together the order of service and I saw that little title of the anthem the choir was going to sing, "Jesus, Keep Me Near the Cross," which of course is a perfect song for the season of Lent. But I couldn't help but wonder what the focus of the song's lyrics was going to be, because I often don't agree, as many of you know, with many of the traditional interpretations and doctrines that focus on why Jesus was killed on that Roman cross. And I'm not going to get into all that today. But if you're new here, I'll just say that many churches around the world, this is not about me and my thoughts, that this is a global movement. Many churches around the world are now rethinking and reforming the basic message of the Christian faith around the cross. And if that concerns you or intrigues you, then do not hesitate to contact me, and I'd be happy to talk about it, okay? If you came from a tradition where Jesus dying on the cross so that you would avoid punishment in hell for eternity is the whole message, that would probably be concerning to you. So I'm aware of that. Get in touch, we'll talk. I'll explain. I actually think that the good news, which is what the word gospel means, is way more powerful and transforming and beautiful than simply believing that God's Son Jesus had to be killed in order for God to forgive us. And I'll leave that there. So when I started thinking about all this, I decided to switch the video I was planning on playing. Instead of Richard Rohr, and we'll come back to him undoubtedly, but show that video that we just saw of Barbara Brown Taylor instead, because she made some important points that are pretty much at the heart of where I'm going in my message today. But I realized that I myself didn't really hear them the first time I listened. So we're going to do something unusual, and that is I'm going to ask Chris to play the video again. So this time, hearing it for the second time, see if you maybe pick up something that you didn't quite hear the first time. And all I'm going to say, though, is that these 4 minutes don't count against my sermon time. So,
And I have to be real careful talking about pain. I mean, I'm a middle-aged white woman who's never broken a bone, so when I talk about pain, it's in a very relative sense. But I've had my share of emotional pain, and I've had plenty of people say pain's pain. There's not really a scale of it. Yeah, when it hurts, it hurts. And it does seem to me that I've been taught a lot of religion that I would call spiritual bypassing. Kind of taught me how to bypass pain, explain away pain, find ways, if I have to feel pain, at least to put so much language around it that it's where spikes get covered up. So that doesn't seem helpful to me, especially in a religion like Christianity that puts pain pretty centrally in the middle of itself. Buddhism, not so much. Forms of Hinduism, perhaps. Islam, more, especially if you're Shia. I mean, there's martyrdom in the heart of that, like there is in Christianity. But at any rate, in a faith like mine, not to accept suffering as a normal, inevitable part of being alive seems like a big mistake, and finding ways to cover it up seems like choosing anesthesia. There is a sense in which if I will trust that what comes to me is for me, now that's the hugest faith statement I can make to you. If I will trust that what comes to me in my life is for me and not against me, which usually it is, depending on my ability to breathe and let it in, and that has no guarantees about the pain that comes my way. But what I find is that it breaks my idols, that it breaks my isolation, that it challenges my sense of independence. It does all kinds of things for me that I would not willingly do, that are for me, that are for my health. So even existentially, in terms of wisdom, and again, really wretched things haven't happened to me, but the pain that has come my way, when I breathe into it, the loss of a parent, the ruptures in family, the witnessing of terrible tragedy in those close to me, if we can hang on to each other and keep walking in, sometimes I'm not the one who can testify to the health and life in that, but there are others around me who can and will. That's a faith statement. It's like begging to be broken, and I really don't want that. So, because I also know people whom pain breaks them, ruins them, empties them out, and they are never full again. So it's a great mystery.
Thanks, Chris. So, among other things, Lent is a time in the church calendar year when we refuse to somehow avoid the fact that the cross, which is a symbol of human pain and struggle and brokenness, is at the heart of the story of Jesus. And as I was thinking about all this past week, it occurred to me that this is one of the main reasons why, after all these years of spiritual study of other religions and finding all kinds of beautiful truths and teachings in so many other religious traditions and frameworks, I love them all and I draw from them all. So Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, there's deep truth in all of them. There's nothing about following Jesus that means you can't learn from, honor, respect, draw from, revere truths wherever they're found. But I still call the path of Jesus my spiritual home because it refuses to set the pain of our lives and the pain of other people and the pain of the planet aside. And the path of Jesus calls us to face the pain, to listen to it, to learn from it, grow through it, and get involved addressing the root causes of unnecessary pain and suffering in the world. And that's what the work of justice and compassion is all about. The path of Jesus takes human pain seriously. It's not just all, hey, increase your vibration and everything will be fine. I'm all for increasing your vibration. But we also need to act. The path of Jesus takes human pain seriously so that we can receive the paradoxical gifts that it gives us personally, and so that we can get down to the heart of what the pain in this world is really about. Where does it come from? What's our own role at times in causing it? And we deal with it deeply and honestly and courageously, individually and as communities, so that God's healing love can get to the roots and bring healing and wholeness, peace and justice to, the Hebrew word is shalom, to our personal lives and to the world. And we'll never receive these gifts that pain has to offer if we run from it or numb it out of it or try to bypass it, as Barbara Brown Taylor put it. Now, last week, I shared a core truth from the Jewish esoteric mystery system known as Kabbalah. And I've been studying that very deeply this last year, and it's been really fascinating for me. It's the Jewish mystery system behind all the Hebrew scriptures. Last week I offered, as I alluded to earlier, a completely different understanding of the role of Hasatan, typically referred to as Satan, the opponent. And you can watch or listen to that last week. I'm not going to get back into it. It's on our YouTube channel. But a bunch of you last week said, man, that was interesting. Would you please share some more insights from Kabbalah? So I will, because it connects beautifully with what our choir's anthem was about and what the season of Lent's about and what Barbara Brown Taylor was saying. So I mentioned last week that the Kabbalah teaches that we humans are all here on earth primarily to come to terms with our own core problems. That we each have certain ways that we tend to get in our own way. Some patterns, usually connected to our egos, or the brokenness of our childhood, our issues. This guy has no issues. But these ways in which we get in our own way, and that what it's all about is coming to terms with those. Yeah, you might want to spare him from that. Or that from him. Yeah, there we go. You with me? All right. So these core problems, they're referred to as tikkun. That's a Hebrew word that means correction. And we're here to come to terms with our core issues and to do what we can to correct them, ourselves personally and then in the world. Now, here's how it connects with today. The Kabbalah teaches that when we're in pain, going through something difficult, that's when we do our own most important and significant and consequential work on this soul level. Very little deep growth and healing and correction happens when we're in the comfort zone, when everything's going great and we're blissing out and we're happy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I prefer it that way. I like being happy. But really, that's just a time to be grateful and to catch your breath and take a little break from the intensity. So here's what the Kabbalah teaches to do when we find ourselves in pain. First, become aware. Just stop, and that's what I was trying to get into with the kids. Just stop and pause and name it. Okay, this hurts. This situation, these circumstances, they're overwhelming me. They're wigging me out. I'm feeling afraid, upset, anxious. I'm not at peace. I can't go on like this. Something's got to change. But then stop. Stop. And you be with it. And you choose not to launch into a reaction. And instead, the Kabbalah says, and when I first heard this, I thought, you've got to be kidding me. But Kabbalah teaches that when you stop and realize, okay, I'm hurting, I'm scared, I'm triggered, I'm not in a good place, I'm caught, I didn't want this, I hate this feeling. At that very moment, either silently or out loud if you can, say to yourself, what a pleasure. I'm serious, that's the practice. To say, what a pleasure. Why? Because you know, according to that teaching, that this pain is giving you a perfect opportunity to do the most important work you're here as a human to do. To bring correction to your tikkun. And how do we do that? Here's the next step. Instead of reacting with your ego, doing what you would normally do when you're frightened or isolated. Instead of doing that thing that you stop and you pray, God, fill me with your light. Fill me with your love. Fill me with your divine strength and enable me to respond to this situation, God, as you would if you were me. And it's our way of saying, so God, be me. Show up as me now in this world, in this situation. It's not complicated, but it's really powerful. I invite you to give this a shot. To choose the next time you are hooked, something's got you, to say, God, fill me with your light and help me show up now as you would. And that's going to mean a zillion different things. This is not about denial or repression or bypassing. You feel your feelings fully. But then you ask God to give you the power to deal with it and to receive the gifts it will offer you if you let it. So this isn't about escape. It's about transformation. It's about evolving. It's about raising and elevating human consciousness. And it's the most powerful thing any of us can learn to receive from God. And it's time to stop. But as I do, I need to first say that Jesus, when you think about it, was the ultimate Kabbalist. He called out the powers of the empire and the corrupt and hypocritical leaders of his own people and provoked a showdown with them. I've been saying for years now that we probably should call, sorry for the should, but this one I'm sticking with. We probably should call Palm Sunday Provocation Sunday. Because he non-violently but strongly confronted the corruption and selfishness and oppressive agenda of the empire and the political and religious leaders who were the causes of a lot of pain that was unnecessary and still is. But instead of confronting them with might or disrespect, Jesus brought light to the fight, even when it didn't go right. I made that up. I get credit for that. He brought light to the fight, even when it didn't go right. I was tempted to keep on going, but it was getting obnoxious, you know. Because he knew it wasn't going to go right. He kept on trying to tell his loved ones, you guys, do you understand what we're headed into? Well, we'll continue with that in the weeks to come. But I just want to say very quickly now in closing a word about our church member, Susan Frank, who passed away on March 10th and who, as we said earlier, had the celebration of life service here on Friday. Barbara Brown Taylor said, can we trust that what comes to us is for us? She was not saying that God causes everything that happens to us for our own good. I don't believe that God causes cancer, for example. We don't know how or why a lot of things that happen. We get most in trouble when we try to give answers to questions that we can't possibly know the answer to. As Barbara Brown Taylor said, some things have to remain a mystery. I'm okay with that. But when Susan and I first got together after her diagnosis, I said, well, what would you like? And she said, well, I want to beat this. I want to beat cancer. And she tried. She did all the praying and opening up of her being to an inexplicable healing. It happens sometimes and not others. Talk about a mystery. But she chose to meet her pain straight on and never went to a place of resentment or why is this happening to me, or this isn't fair, or none of that. And anyone who was privileged to be close to her toward the end felt the beauty and the power of how Susan beat cancer. She didn't beat it by making it go away. She beat it by refusing to be anything other than light and love and gratitude right up to her last breath. Was that a pleasure? Of course not, in lots of obvious ways. But did she bring light to her fight? And was the way she responded to her pain and circumstances deeply, undeniably beautiful and powerful and healing and radiant and full of a love and a light and a legacy of blessing that will last forever? Absolutely. Lots more could be said about this topic. Not today. But may God say to your heart what you need to hear in light of all this. Amen.